Psalms 83 verse 1. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee.
Cause they don't really love us, no. They don't love us, no. Better bundle up because this world is cold. This world is cold. The truth they don't want us to know. Cause we the people that he chose. I just want some wisdom, you can keep your gold. And I'd rather be broke than to sell my soul. Yeah, F your money, I don't need your dollars. Praises to the Father, and I'm yelling Kwam Yasharala. No, I'm not a Muslim, I don't deal with Allah. Keep a sword with me, cut you up just like a barber. My people lost, we destroyed because we lacking knowledge. Spiritual knowledge, not that kind that you can get in college. We them children of the promise, a highest promise, the one that he made with our forefathers. Judah's alliance, what would tell me who shall rouse him, and we gon' rise up. That's why Esau wanna stop us. Ay, they don't really love us, no. They don't love us, no. Better bundle up because this world is cold. This world is cold. The truth they don't want us to know. Cause we the people that he chose. Yeah, reading these scriptures now I see the truth. This world is so cold, man, they killing our youth. Just turn on the news and you'll see the proof. They don't care about me, they don't care about you. They give us the guns, they tell us to shoot. They give us the drugs, they tell us to use. They tell us to sell them, they play us like fools. The private salute, so that's what we do. We gotta wake up, man, there's no time to snooze. Our power's the greatest, so we cannot lose. They try to degrade us, but they can't erase us out. God didn't make us to play by their rules, and that's why they hate us. They hate that they ain't us, and Satan can't make us get down with his crew. They lock us and chain us, they cuff us and slave us, but they'll never break us, we always break through. It's true, we the chosen people, our spirit golden, we royalty. Though we straight away, our Father kept us, that's loyalty. When it's time for judgment, won't have attorneys, no lawyer fees. When it's time for judgment, it's gonna be destruction of our enemies. Yeah,
giving all praise.
Cause they don't really love us, no.
Welcome to another edition of Late Night Talk with Akoti Tamar. Akoti Speaks, broadcasted live. Just can't never get enough of this song. Truth they don't want us to know. And tonight, Akoti is gonna try to bring the truth. That's all I'm committed to do in this hour. That's the only promises that I make to you in this hour. It's Late Night with Akoti Speaks. Welcome. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Aloha. Hola. Hello to you wherever you may be in this diaspora. Akoti Speaks. Want to talk to you, my family. It's late night, so of course some of you already may be asleep. But if you're tuning in with me tonight and listening to the sound of my voice right now, I say thank you. I give all praises to the Most High for my ability to be able to bring this podcast to you tonight, this live stream tonight. And I thank you for joining in with me to listen and understand. I'm not going to say I'm going to promise this video is going to be short. That's not what I'm going to say. I'm going to let the Ruach, the Holy Spirit, move me, and whatever the gods in the universe say I'm going to say those words. And so, if y'all understand what the title said, we can definitely move forward. I am not trying to keep you from understanding the truth. The truth is, we need to be about national liberation and self-determination. We've witnessed several atrocities that's happening with our family. Those of us that have been victim of post-traumatic slave syndrome, regardless to if you're indigenous to the Americas or if you were brought over here via the transatlantic slave trade. We are all one nation of people that have experienced the same bondage, slavery, atrocities, pain, and sorrow. But that being said, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that there is a shining light as long as we all are walking righteously. And the topic of this podcast tonight is, let's talk about national liberation and self-determination. And I'm going to frame this with saying that it is your God-given right, the universe right, Yah's given right for you to self-determine what you should be in this life, who you should be in this life, and the purpose in your life should not be deterred from any outside influences. Are you tired, black man, indigenous man, to these Americas? Are you tired, black sister, indigenous sister, to these Americas? If you're not tired, I'm tired for you. There's so many different things that's going out in the atmosphere that keep us from focusing on what's really real. And what's really real is that, hey, we are still in captivity because we have never been allowed to self-determine. And that's what the National Liberation Movement is all about. Black liberation movement that includes indigenous people as well as people who came over here as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. We cannot deny that the slave trade happened because we have records of that. But we also cannot deny that some of our brethren were already here in these lands. So this is just a disclaimer. When I say Afro-Descendant nation, that's not to say that there were no indigenous people in this land before Christopher Columbus. I recognize that there were all different kinds of nations here in this land. And I say, before I really go deep into the topic, I say this as another disclaimer, that the Most High deals with nations of people. And when I say the Most High, I'm talking about the creator of all things, heaven and earth, and also beings, humans, beings, right? And so when we understand that those of us who have been victims of bondage, and we're descendants of that bondage through our ancestors who actually went through that bondage with the chains and shackles and the whips and the what we call the cops, the original cops, the slave captures, the slave captures, like those people that went out to bring you back in, or bring our ancestors back in when you tried to rebel against their self-determined way of life. It wasn't your way of life, it was their way of life and how you fit into their framework. We were never afforded the opportunity to self-determine. And so moving forward, Cote just want to share some things that I've learned within this last year. I'm not going to even say a year, within this last, it culminated over a year, but it really, the information that I have gained has really brought me to a point of saying that within the last 3 months, 4 months, I can say that, hey, you know what? They're right. We have never been afforded the opportunity to self-determine who we are. They told us who we are. They set us free from the plantation. And they basically gave us an ultimatum. Either migrate back to Liberia, as if all of us came from Liberia, or stay in these United States and be considered 3/5 as a human, as the Dred Scott decision came down. That's what they said. A lot of people like to say, okay, so that decision was overturned with the 13th and the 14th Amendment when we had those amendments passed, and that was considered equal rights. I beg to differ. Because my people, our ancestors were never given the opportunity to say, wait, no, that's not who we are. We're not Negro. We're not colored. We're not niggas. We're not Afro-American. We're not African American. And we're not Black. These are all the titles they put on us to classify us in their so-called census, without our consent. So in other words, we were forced into patriotism. Now we love the Americas because that's why we can say that we have ancestors from these lands. We love these Americas because that's where we were born. But to say that we are American citizens under the framework of the United States government, understand when they wrote the Constitution, it was never intended for us to be considered as fully equal to the people that actually oppressed us. And that was evident with the Dred Scott decision. Sure, the 13th, 14th Amendment said that they should treat us equally. It said that, we deserve certain civil rights. And that is why they vote in Congress every 25 years on whether they should continue to give us those said civil rights. But self-determination is based on basic human rights. I pause to let that sink in. I say again, we have basic human rights that the United States Constitution does not address. They have never declared us to be human, fully human, equal to those that oppressed us. I'm going to need y'all to dig in real deep to understand that. Because once we understand that, then we can move forward as a nation of people, and then we can truly declare that this is a national liberation movement of Black people, melanated people, copper-toned people. See, we fight and we argue over all these labels because we have never fully declared who we are as a group of people, as a nation of people that have suffered bondage, discrimination, hate, police brutality. I'm not going to even go into the recent slave patrol or cop activity. Citizens on patrol, cop, citizens on patrol. Slave catcher was a United States citizen that was on patrol to capture us, these descendants of slaves. And back then, slaves, our ancestors. These things have never changed. So what makes you think, Black man, Black woman, that all of a sudden they have changed their mind at the United States Supreme Court had many opinions? There's 12 of them. You know, they might have had some dissent. But what's case precedent is what Judge Taney said. Slaves could never have equal rights equivalent to those of a white man. He was like, are you kidding me? You want to let these slaves, cotton picking people have the same rights as me? And they've been slaves, you know. So basically, they looked at us as spoiled. You know, back in antiquity, you went to war and you gathered the spoil if you were the victor. You took the women and the children, you killed all the men, you took the gold and the silver and whatever else they had of value, that was your possession. So when we had the so-called Civil War, in war, we have to have spoil. That's how it's been since the days of antiquity. That's how most people obtained slaves. That's how our people were enslaved back in the day, in bondage, way back in Egypt. For those that have an ear to hear and understand that that did happen. So the game hasn't changed. It's just that some of us have been lullabied to sleep to think that because they passed the civil rights law, that we are somehow free. I beg to differ. And I say once again, Thank you for tuning in with me on Late Night with Akoti Speaks. I'm just trying to talk to my people. The most important thing is that you share this video. You share this video, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, figure out a way to share it. Because what I'm about to impart to you is knowledge that you should equip yourself for in these times. Because just like my intro song says, they don't really care about us. They don't really love us. They don't really love us. So we need to operate on the premise based on everything that we've seen in our lifetime. What is this? Generation X, Generation Y, Z, I don't know. Millennials, whoever may be listening at this time. This is information that they need to hear if they were not aware of, and if they are aware of these things, then don't keep it to yourself. Share it with your people. And so that's what I'm committed to in this hour. Telling my people that there is a national liberation movement for human rights, self-determination. And once we achieve that, then we can get the reparations. Because I'm quite sure all of you who have had your ear to the ground regarding reparations understand that they will not pay reparations to a color. They pay reparations to nations of people. They paid the Japanese, that's a nation of people. They paid the Chinese, that's a nation of people. They paid the Jewish people, that's a nation of people. So we have to ask ourselves, when you going to pay us? UN has already said that you are held accountable, but they're not going to pay up until we tell them we ready. We're this nation of people. Cut the check. Just like you cut the check every year to Israel and the Israelis, right? Cut the check to the descendants of the people that helped build this nation. It's simple as that. And while you're cutting the check, allow us to self-determine who we are. Allow us to determine. They can only allow us to determine who we are if we show them who we are as a confederated nation. Irregardless to your religion and your beliefs, your faith, and your current nationhood, what the National Liberation Movement is saying that we can all become confederate against the colonizers, the oppressors, the powers that be. This is what we're saying, and this is what we need to do. And this is what Akoti Tamor is trying to speak to you about in this late night hour. So without further ado, let's go ahead and switch scenes here and get that right down to the meat of the matter. Because I want to acknowledge, before I go in, Miss Elena Porter of the Pendo Center, who has enlightened my eyes to all of these things. So this information I'm about to bring forth to you is courtesy of her. PendoForFreedom.org. Please visit the website. Please inquire. Please understand what this is all about in this hour. Lean not on your own understanding, things you're not aware of, you're supposed to be seeking the truth. And I'm giving you the truth. This is not something that we can make up. This is what has been written in their United Nations Council's charter as it relates to us as colonized people. We were colonized. We were in bondage. You know, we're not immigrants, right? You have certain laws that govern immigrants. We all know about the immigration, and they're always going back and forth in Congress about immigration law. But what they don't ever talk about is the people who have been victimized for over 500 years in their slave trade and their descendants. They've paid reparations to everybody else, and they allowed everyone else to determine their own self-identification. We, on the other hand, they gave us a bunch of names and threw a bunch of titles. Y'all ever wonder why we was classified as so many different groups of people? Like I said before, we were nigger, Negroes, colored, Afro-American, African American, and now we just black. Sometimes they use African American up, but they damn sure did away with Afro-American. I wonder why. Now that we know that since 2000 we have been declared to be Afro-Descendants, right? An Afro-Descendant nation. How come you ain't know about that term? People in South America know. People in Canada know about that term. But do you know about that term? General public. There are some fashions, some organizations, some nations of people who know about it. But guess what? If they're only operating in their own unique territory and they're not sharing the information that they know with the masses, then they would never get their true recognition either, because we're all the same people. Aren't y'all taught to push back? Aren't y'all ready to exercise your Yah-given right, your God-given right, your Allah-given right to just be human as He created you to be? Keep in mind the Dred Scott decision where it said we weren't. So have we arrived in this hour all of a sudden? I can't tell about a recent shooting of black men without provocation. We have cops, i.e. slave patrol, same people. Now they're in fear for their life anytime they think or feel that you may be a threat to them. And the threat is you're a black man, and they say you could do anything to them at any point in time, so they have to fear for their life. That's the system that we're working in. That's the system that we have. So without further ado, I'm going to go through these slides, and we're going to just discuss it. And I thank you for tuning in. If you are, I can't really see who's in the chat or, who's viewing me live right now, but I want to say all praises to the Most High for you joining in with me right now. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I understand it's late night. So for those who may catch this later, please share the video. With those that are on right now, please share the video, because some of us don't know these things. And in order for us to move forward, I felt impelled to share this, what I've learned. Like, I'm not going to keep it a secret. I'm going to share it. And we need to share. so that the word can get out. The best thing that we can do right now is utilize their social media platforms to spread our word, our message, because they're doing a good job right now of sharing their message of fear and chaos. So let's flip the script and give our people something positive in this hour. So, exercising self-determination in a hostile state, ethnic conflict resolution using international human rights law, overcoming the legacy of centuries of crimes against humanity, economic and political deprivation, exclusion, and ill treatment. We already know about the police brutality, the police coercion of confessions of crimes that our black men really didn't do, but they take these plea deals in order so that they can have their time reduced or maybe even go home to their families very soon after they make that false confession. Political deprivation. That's alluding to the fact that they give you 3 candidates, Democratic, Republican, Independent, and time again, we say, well, they don't really represent all of my interests. And they damn sure don't represent the interests of the black people in whole, in totality. But yet and still, they want us in a campaign, wedge campaigns geared toward us to influence us to vote for them. But I told you, they want your vote. They never considered us to be fully equal, really. They gave us civil rights, right? But we still looked upon as less than human. But because they gave you civil rights, you can now vote for them. Because it's a numbers game with them, right? So when we withdraw our consent to vote for them and then place someone else that we would like to see representing us in the United States government, Congress, that's when we gain power. Because now we have true representation in Congress. Not candidates that's forced upon us. You're forced to choose whatever the Republican convention come up with, their nominee, and whatever the Democratic convention come up with, their nominee. But where's your voice? And where's your choice? I'm sure you can think of a lot of people that you are affiliated with, associated with, friends and family that can do righteous things if they had the opportunity to represent their people in Congress. And that's what the liberation movement is all about. Trying to identify those people that can address and do regress, right? Or bring about, shine lights on our regresses, right? Our platform, our grievances. We want someone in Congress that's going to represent that. The only way we can do that is if we as a nation of people establish our own political party. You know, like the National Liberation Political Party Convention, where we nominate individuals to run for Congress, the mayors, the governors. And if we feel like, okay, so we want to withdraw from all of that totally, let's work internally and determine our own governance, right? Where we determine who will represent us in the assembly of just us, right? And then we can go on and send those people to Congress to effectuate our grievances, or to not effectuate our grievances, but let our grievances be known in the whole nation, what they call the United States of America. So we sort of would be operating like a nation within a nation, but still saying that we have rights to this nation because we were here first. I'm just saying. So the principle of self-determination of peoples in international human rights law. The principle of self-determination of peoples are explicitly enshrined in the UN Charter, became legally entrenched by the UN General Assembly Resolution 1514 in 1960. This is how long it's been since we have obtained certain human rights. Granting of independence to colonial countries and peoples. See, everybody knows that the United States were founded, and when they founded it, they had colonies, right? And we were subject to the colonial rule because we were in bondage. So whatever they said went. And so the UN right here on international human rights law is addressing just that. United States of America was a colonial power at one time before they dropped the division between the North and the South, and they all became Confederates against you. Black man, black woman, indigenous man, indigenous woman, melanated man and melanated woman. It was you. But the UN said you have to grant independence to these peoples. Peoples. Notice it says colonial countries and peoples. I say that's my people when I'm referring to another sister or brother. That's my people. How do we know that's our people? Because we came from the same lineage. And we're different from them, right? We all acknowledge that. The respective Article 1 of the United Nations International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights in International Covenant on Economic and Social and Cultural Rights, 1966. So we're talking about two different documents that acknowledges that a group of people should be able to exercise their human right, your God-given right, your Yah-given right, your Allah-given right, to proceed and self-determine how you want to live your life socially, culturally, and it also applies to your beliefs, your faith, your religion. Tridactic structure of state of sovereignty. The self-determination of people's human rights as element of democratic governments can be found in the provisions of concerning the principle of equal rights and self-determination of peoples of the Declaration of Principles of Friendly Relations and Cooperation among States in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations annexed to the UN General Assembly Resolution 2625, 1970. So now here it is again. They're doubling down on that. In 1965, I believe they gave us equal rights, but they never allowed us, they gave us so-called equal rights, right? They say you got civil rights, right? And it's supposed to be with the 14th Amendment, all those who are situated similarly should be treated similarly. That part, the 14th Amendment, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that was her, commentary to the decision when the Civil Rights Law was passed, the 14th Amendment, challenges to it, said those that are situated similarly should be treated similarly. Therefore, we have civil rights. Because we're situated here in America, we go to work every day, just like they do. So we're situated similarly, so they should give us certain rights, like, a right to a job. If you apply, you should be considered, right? If you want to go into this bathroom, You don't have to go around back. You can go ahead and use that bathroom because we're simulated the same. We're still in the same store, restaurant, or wherever they may have public facilities. We're all there together. This nation of people, as well as us. So that's that equal rights. But that does not speak to self-determination. Oh, they forgot to tell y'all about that part. That they were required to allow us to self-determine. Instead, we had to go along to get along with their political framework, Republican, Democrat, or Independent. Those are your choices. It takes a lot of us to get us on the ballot. But as long as we're still siding with the colonists, the oppressors, we can never get people who truly represent us on the ballot. They are giving you people that they have chosen. We didn't choose them people, but yet you're voting for them because you think they have your best interest in mind when they really don't. Not even lawyers. They know the law. They know the decision of Dred Scott. They know the only case precedent that says that Dred Scott was overturning their ruling about us being 3/5 human, right? Was the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, but that don't fly. Because they're lacking this part right here. Self-determination. They're lacking that one point. They do not want you to self-determine because, every time we get together and we self-determine, do our own thing. Rosewood, Tulsa, the Black Panther Party, and I can't remember the group that was up north, northern New York. Every time you get together and you try to do for self, they find a way to destroy it. And why were they able to do that? Because we were not all united. They had some people that did not like the Black Panthers. Oh, they did not like what they were doing. And I'm talking about, when I say people, I'm talking about our people. They didn't like what they were doing. They were afraid of the guns. Yeah. Didn't like Malcolm X. Because he was about total separation from the oppressors. He was talking self-determination. Could that be why they got rid of him? Just food for thought. Ethnic conflict. Ethnic conflict describes a situation in which two or more actors pursue incompatible, yet from their individual perspectives, entirely just goals. Ethnic conflicts are a form of group conflict in which one party interprets the conflict it causes and potential remedy along with actually existing or perceived discriminating ethnic divide. So let me read that again. Or let me just paraphrase that. These people have set up a system where they can do order out of chaos. That's basically what that says. They create the chaos, the conflict between nations, and then they come in with the solutions. Read it again. 4. Ethnic conflicts are a form of group conflict in which one party interprets the conflict it causes. Remember, they enslaved us, and then they so-called set us free without rights, black codes, Jim Crow laws, having to fight for civil rights, having to vote for civil rights every 25 years. conflict it causes, and potential remedy along an actual existing or perceived discriminating ethnic divide, i.e. redlining, i.e. the government condoning all of these different subdivision homeowner communities, subdivisions or what have you, where it says that it was okay for you not to let darkies live in your community. Why? We go back to the Dred Scott decision. Can't possibly be equal to us. How could you live next to us? We still got that going on today. Just recently, young black male walking through a neighborhood, Army veteran or whatever kind of veteran, a military veteran, decide that he did not fit the part for being in that neighborhood. What you doing here? And y'all know what word comes behind that. And now he's facing charges. Why? Because guess what we did? We went out and showed up to let them know, hey, don't put your hands on us when it's not justified. He was out of line. And we let him know that he was out of line. And we put pressure on the authorities to round him up and press charges against him. Letting them know that, yeah, we have basic human rights that you must respect. So if we don't let them know it, if we don't assert our rights, then they're going to continue to do exactly what they're going to do, which is constantly create a situation and then provide the solution for the situation. Interprets the conflict it causes and potential remedy along with actually existing or perceived discriminating ethnic divide. Next slide. So let's deal with stateless nations' mode of government. Afro-Americans, a national minority group, has not achieved statehood. A state is an apparatus of governance, and a nation constitutes a cultural community. There are two different kinds of human groupings. Two different kinds of human groupings. Are we free? Are we stateless? We're not nationless anymore. We're Afro-Descendant. We're an Afro-Descendant nation. But a lot of us don't know it. And it's been the case since 2000. Like I said, people in South America know it. People in Canada know it. Few people in the United States know it. But the masses don't know it. And that's a problem. That's a problem. So have the people that understand this and been knowing this all this time, I'm just learning this right now in this year. So I'm sharing it with you once I got a clear understanding of what was really going on. Now I'm sharing it with the masses. And I'm hoping that you share, right? So what's up with our brothers and sisters that been knowing this, and why haven't we heard about it? That's a problem. And we cannot assume that they don't want us to know. Maybe they just don't know how to get the word out. And so for me, I'm constantly seeking out people that can help get this word out and educate our people on what's really going on in our real political status, which we have none, unless we declare it. But it's going to take more than just my voice and the people that's hearing this right now and the people that's hearing this later, it's going to take you sharing what you hear and what you learn with the next man, Black National Liberation Movement, so that we can form our own political party, so that we can be recognized as a nation, so we can get these reparations. I'm not going to even try to pronounce this man's name. Well, I'm going to take a stab at it. Stanislavski, in its characterization of power states, argues that the lack of effective recognized governmental control does not mean that these are ungoverned territories. They represent alternative or contested sources of control instead of its complete absence. The same holds true for unrecognized states. They should not be dismissed as anarchical bandlords, as black spots on the global map of sovereign states. But the degree of statehood that they have achieved differs between cases. So, that calls to mind when I read that as black spots. Okay, is that why we're classified as minorities? When I think if we do a census regarding according to the seed of the father, I'm willing to bet you that we're the majority right now. Just within the 50 states of the United States of America, that we're the majority. But way back then, they classified us in political apparatus as the minority. You know how they always say, we got to do something about the minority community. We got to help the minority community. Red flag. They're telling you that you're not a part of their majorities called United States citizens, right? You're a special class of people. So if they're looking at you as a minority and not really part of the majority, remember democratic rule, right? Majority rule, Democrats, democratic way of life, democratic Republican is about the majority rule. And they have already said that you're a minority. So the majority rule does not include you. They keep excluding you and we don't get it. They keep excluding us, calling us the minority community, yet still we still vote in their elections without having proper representation of our minority community. Every time you go there and you push the lever for Republican or Democrat or independent at this point, you're pulling the lever for people who does not represent your nation group of people. They do not represent you as a minority. Even when Barack Obama was elected, he was a Democrat running on their agenda. And where has that gotten us? Name one thing that he did that helped black folks exclusively as a nation of people. He gave us the group called, I think it's called Am I My Brother's Keeper? That's for young black men. I don't even know if that's still in effect. Donald Trump might have canceled that executive order. I don't know. But you know what I'm saying? I haven't heard the progress he's making with that group, and maybe they just keep it in hush-hush because they really don't want to know us to know that he's making progress with our young black men. I don't know, but the point is, he did not get in office and do anything specifically for us. And that's what's lacking in this whole political arena. And so I say again, us as indigenous people, descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, sisters and brethren, we need our own political party. Our own political party can help us move into that era of self-determination, demanding that they recognize that we have human rights, and getting a reparations check cut. That's what this is all about. I pray someone out there tonight is understanding me, what I'm saying. Or whenever you may hear this podcast, I pray you understand what I'm saying. This whole thing is politics. So when are we going to get in the game? I'm not saying you have to join forces with them. I'm saying just the opposite. I'm just saying create your own that they will have to respect because we have the numbers, because we really are the majority and not the minority. And it's a brainwash game every time they say the minority community. Y'all got to catch that. I pray I'm making sense to somebody. Next slide. We talk about International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, one of the world's major human rights treaties, which has been widely ratified, provides in Article 27. Article 27 focus on minority cultural groups, as do a number of human rights conventions. These rights apply to minority and majority groups. However, it is based recognition of the typical vulnerable position that non-dominant groups are likely to be in regards to enjoyment of its culture. Special protection is justified for Afro-Americans to the extent of offsetting the vulnerability that go along with minority status. What this slide is saying is that we've been classified as a minority status, which makes us vulnerable, which makes us beholden to whatever they give us, because that's how they classify us. So we've been subjugated to welfare and Social Security checks and aid from the government, special grants, Pell grants to go to school, these things that they put in place for the minority community. Why? To shut us up, to pacify us. At the same time, keeping us ignorant of Article 27 in the UN Treaty. International law, which all nation states have to adhere to. But if we as a collective of people do not make them adhere to these things, then they're going to continue to classify you as a minority and not a nation of people. So now we got, okay, let's go back. We had Igbo, then they changed it to Hebo. I'm talking about when they were advertising slaves coming off the transatlantic slave trade. You see documents where they say Igbos for sale, then they say Igbo with the H for sale, then they said Negroes for sale, then we would turn to niggers when we were actually on the plantation, then got off the plantation and they called us colored, right, with the Jim Crow laws. Then after that, right before the Civil Rights Law was passed, they called us Afro-Americans, thanks to your boy Jesse Jackson or whatever, I guess. And now, here recently, they called us African Americans, i.e., black people, but still a minority. Even though, if you want to do the census count really, really accurately, according to the bloodline of the father, we're the majority. So I read again. However, it is based recognition of the typical typically vulnerable position that the non-dominant groups, i.e. minorities, are likely to be in with regards to the enjoyment of its culture. So they decide whether or not you can worship on this day, how you worship. They decide if this worship is against their laws. They decide what school you send your kids to. And if you don't send your kids to school, then they gonna fine you, possibly put you in jail. They decide how you should take care of your kids, and they decide whether or not you're nurturing your kids properly to their satisfaction. And if you don't, they take your kids from you through child protective services, because they have to protect their asset. That's a spoil. We're still spoiled, right? Anything we produce is part of the spoil. So here we are, descendants of slaves, but we still consider the spoil. They're the victors of the war. So we're the spoil. You have to understand that. And therefore, spoil is minority because we don't rule anything. We're not dominant. We don't govern ourselves. We don't police ourselves. We don't educate ourselves. We don't provide medical services to ourselves. So we are beholden unto them. That what makes us a minority, because we're not in power. And it's justified. As their way of saying, well, we have to keep this nation together. And we have to do what's best for the nation, the United States of America. But we're the minority. But we have to go along to get along with whatever they say. So when it says special protection is justified for Afro-Americans to the extent of setting of vulnerability that go along with minority status. So we're vulnerable to anything that they say as long as we are minority or considered, or as long as we allow them to classify us as minority. UNESCO Convention Against Discrimination in Education, 1960, recognizes that the rights of minorities to maintain their own schools and teach in their own languages, but subject to policies of each state. So, critical race theory, right? That wouldn't even be a problem if they would recognize that we should have the power to teach our history, our lineage, not his story, but our lineage. His story, history, his story. We don't want to teach that. We want to teach our lineage. We want to teach our people about our forefathers and our ancestors. That's what we want to teach them about. Not his history. According to UNESCO convention, we were supposed to be able to do that. 1960. That's before the Civil Rights Act was passed. So you get what I'm saying? So the United States knew exactly what they were doing when they passed the Civil Rights Law. Yeah, they said, y'all can integrate. Y'all can come in there. Y'all can come into the restaurant and say wherever you like. We still don't think y'all human. But we're going to give y'all that, though. We're going to give y'all that because guess what? You got green dollars just like everybody else got green dollars. And so everybody going to get along. But when you go back to your hood, nigger, you can't stay here. This was happening in the 1960s. Redlining took place for a very, very long time. So did predatory lending. But that's a whole nother talk show. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. Unrestricted deficiency thesis. Unrestricted Deficiency thesis, also known as UDT, states that groups that do not have a clear identity and effective agency, African Americans, are internally divided, unorganized, unclear of their boundaries, and therefore unable to engage in actions as groups. Identity and agency are closely related. Fractionness and lack of clear identity makes it hard for Afro-Americans to have authorized leadership that can generally decide and speak for the group. Black America has assertive or political engaged members that try to speak and decide on behalf of the group, but this kind of leadership is unauthorized and leads to protests and schisms. We're talking about groups like the NAACP, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, Rainbow Push Coalition, all these organizations that came up, propped up, and said that they were speaking for the nation of black people. I didn't get my consent, and I know a lot of people around me, they didn't give that consent, like for you to speak for us. Like when we do a plebiscite vote for you to be the person that the spokesperson for the minority group. I didn't remember voting. I don't remember them asking my mom. Y'all remember? Did they ask your mama, your daddy, your grandpa? You know what I'm saying? Like, did they ask us? Did we all get together and say, okay, minority group of nation of people, who do y'all want to rep? What group do y'all want? Do y'all want to form a group? Like, who should be the voice for y'all as a nation of people, minority people, right? That didn't happen. Instead, we get people like Al Sharpton that, that's supposedly speaking for us, right? But then he get a show with MSNBC and, he going on to get along. He's not really speaking to the issues of the people. He's given a script and he's sticking to the script, which is to help the oppressors, the colonizers' political gain, to keep us divided, because they know as long as the vote is split and we feeling some kind of way in our feelings about Democrat and Republicans and who's right and who's wrong, that we could never come together and say, hey, wait, hold up. Regardless of Republican and Democrat, what they're saying is not in our best interest. So how about we form our own political party and put up who we want to represent us and not somebody that they give us, such as a Jesse Jackson. I think it was Hoover that said that. I believe it was during the time of Malcolm X. If the black nation is going to ever have a Messiah, we're going to give him one. Thus, we have people like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, but guess what? The real people, reject them. And even though we reject them, we still go unrepresented as a nation of people in this whole political arena. That is why I say again, we need to start our own political party. And it's not hard. We just need everybody to join in and say, hey, we're tired of being considered a minority. We're tired of living under the label that you classified us as Negro, Afro-American, African-American, Black. You tired? Because I'm tired too. I'm tired too. And what I'm saying to you is this. I'm going to read this last sentence. This last sentence here. Second to last. Fractionness and lack of clear identity make it hard for Afro-Americans to have authorized leadership that can genuinely decide and speak for the group. Fraction, that means half, that means part of, and not a whole. What we need is the whole nation working together and say, hey, This is our congressman that we are running for the United States Senate from this state. This needs to happen in every state. Identify those individuals that you know that's for the right thing for our people. And say, hey, he needs to be classified under the National Liberation Party for black people. Aren't y'all ready? This is chess, not checkers. They're playing chess. We're still playing checkers. Why? Because we're fractioned off into different individual groups amongst ourselves, minority selves. So you're already considered a minority. They've already classified you as a minority. Then when you break off into all these different groups and decide you're just going to do your own thing without the rest of your people, then you're making a grave mistake. Because now we're divided and we have no real political power. And they allow you to do these things. NAACP, Rainbow Push Coalition, whatever other ACLU, all these other different groups. But the ACLU, that's for them people. I'm just going to let you know that they're not really looking out for you. I'm just telling you. For them and immigrants, but not you. Because you're always being considered as less than human as per the Dred Scott decision. That decision still stands because there's no way that they can say that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment overturned that. No, it was said. There's no way we can give them the certain rights. That's how they can kill us down and murder us in the street and be like, I fear for my life. Or, the cop was justified for killing this unarmed black man because he didn't follow our command. We thought he was reaching. So we just shot him. No regard for your life. Why? Because they don't consider you to be as human. I'm going to stop that right there for this podcast. Because this is going to be a series of podcasts that I bring forth to you. This is just an introduction to get your mind set on getting out of the idea that you're a minority. You are not. And once you understand that you are not a minority and that you represent a great number of people, a mighty nation, a royal nation of people, then we can truly move towards national liberation, self-determination, and then we get them reparations. It has to be in that order. Everything must be done decently and in order. And with that being said, I pray that I open your eyes to some things. Comment. Let me know how you really feel about this. Is the Coty off? Is anything that I said was not correct? Do you want to learn more about what I said? Let me know, because I want to engage with the community, because the only way we can engage it is that we talk about these things and share information that we all know to be true. I know these things to be true. I pray I did a good job of breaking these things down for you, but this is just the clean facts. You're not a minority. You are what you declare yourself to be. And I'm asking you to be confederate with your brothers and sisters as they are confederate against you. They know what they're doing in this hour. They already have their United Nations treaties and articles. They've read them. They know. But what they're banking on is that you will never find out. And so that's why Coty is speaking. Coty speaks. Thank you for joining me on this late night edition of Coty Speaks. I really pray that I move someone tonight. And I thank you again for joining in. And I thank you again for listening in. If you're going to listen later, or if you are listening after this podcast is posted. It's time. It's our time. It's our time. I love you all with the love of Yahuwah. And all I can say is that, like my opening song says, and I'm going to go back to it, that once we realize that they don't really love us, we got to start loving ourselves. And that's just point blank period. Love on us.
Psalms 83 verse 1. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee.
Speaks.
Cause they don't really love us, no. No, they don't love us, no. Better bundle up because this world is cold. This world is cold. The truth they don't want us to know. No, they don't want us to know. Cause we the people that he chose. That he chose. I just want some wisdom, you can keep your gold. And I'd rather be broke than to sell my soul. Yeah, F your money, I don't need your dollars. Praises to the Father, and I'm yelling Kwam Yasharala. No, I'm not a Muslim, I don't deal with Allah. Keep a sword with me, cut you up just like a barber. My people lost, we destroyed because we lacking knowledge. Spiritual knowledge, not that kind that you can get in college. We them children of the promise, a highest promise, the one that he made with our forefathers. Judah's alliance, what would tell me who shall rouse him, and we gon' rise up. That's why Esau wanna stop us. Hey, they don't really love us, no. No, they don't love us, no. Better bundle up because this world is cold. This world is cold. The truth they don't want us to know. No, they don't want us to know. Cause we the people that he chose. That he chose. Yeah, reading these scriptures now I see the truth. This world is so cold, man, they killing our youth. Just turn on the news and you'll see the proof. They don't care about me, they don't care about you. They give us the guns, they tell us to shoot. They give us the drugs, they tell us to use. They tell us to sell them, they play us like fools. The private salute, so that's what we do. We gotta wake up, man, there's no time to snooze. Our power's the greatest, so we cannot lose. They try to degrade us, but they can't erase us out. God didn't make us to play by their rules, and that's why they hate us. They hate that they ain't us, and Satan can't make us get down with his crew. They lock us and chain us, they cuff us and slave us, but they'll never break us, we always break through. It's true, we the chosen people, our spirit golden, we royalty. So we straight away, our Father kept us, that's loyalty. When it's time for judgment, won't have attorneys, no lawyer fees. When it's time for judgment, it's gonna be destruction of our enemies. Yeah, cause they don't really love us, no. No, they don't love us, no. Better bundle up because this world is cold. This world is cold. The truth they don't want us to know.